All right, there we go. All right, we are all set. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We hope everybody had a wonderful holiday yesterday and this week, and we hope you guys are all enjoying, hopefully, a two days off of work. So, my name is Kalyn McDonald. I am the social media manager for Sphere Being Alliance, as well as the co-host for the new Sphere Being Alliance YouTube show, Cosmic Table Talk. So I am here with none other than Miss Laura Eisenhower. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday and joining us and coming on. I know we're going to have a fantastic show today. We have a lot of really cool topics to discuss. So, did you want to say hi to the audience? Did you have anything to say?
Oh, just hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's awesome to be here, and hope everybody had a good time yesterday, whatever you did.
Awesome. So let's jump right in, Laura. So Laura, you've been in Above Majestic as well as The Cosmic Secret. So I just wanted to kind of get your take on kind of the combined message between both films, but also what your personal goals were for collaborating with this project and getting your information out.
I think Above Majestic has a lot to do with the exopolitical information that's been largely hidden. I mean, there's a lot of disclosure happening in that particular documentary, and it's pretty amazing. Just all the different individuals that came forward, just sharing, some of the harder truths that need to be purged out, need to be understood so that we call our energy back and do something about it through exposure, through educating others, and through also listening to witness testimony, whistleblower testimony, to really understand it firsthand, from the people who have been there. And that was very much evident. Also, a lot of important researchers. Cosmic Secret, I think, really just touches upon this ascension window that we're in, human potential, possible future scenarios, preparedness, the spiritual linking into what we've seen take place on the world stage and what it means for us now, with a lot of different voices that come from different angles that when you put it all together gives us a pretty large picture that we can all discern and make sense out of in our own way.
Very true. Very true. And so your background, you have a really strong astrology background. And so one thing I wanted to ask you is, what does someone's astrological chart have to do with their mission as a starseed from your perspective and from your research?
Well, I don't do astrology charts probably in the way that I don't want to compare myself to anybody, but I know that I really stretch this tool in multiple ways, how that connects to DNA, junk DNA, timelines, the galactic zodiac, which takes us beyond the 12 signs and 12 houses, and also brings in the 13th sign, which started to happen in the year 2010, which was a very critical time as far as this ascension window is concerned. And there's just a lot of information in regards to that, in how everything is, changing on a geophysical level on the planet, and also in our own, being. The 13th sign actually is ruled by the ether and connected to Chiron, the wounded healer. And so we can see this happening in our world, where a lot is coming up. A lot of traumas are coming up for people. A lot of things on a larger world stage are really revealing that they've had enough, and they're tired of feeling hurt, and they want to do something about these wounds, and they want to take action. And the very act of being willing to face our wounds really shows that it opens us up to this powerful ether energy, which provides healing, transformation, purification, which touches upon all the other elements that we see in the zodiac: earth, air, fire, water. And I like to use it as a tool to help us to liberate, to connect into the 0-point unified field, to take charge of the path that we're walking through understanding limitations, blocks, things connected to the control agendas, different things connected to our ancestral patterns, past lives, and even stretching it into, a lot of these different projects and programs connected to MK Ultra that exist on the planet. So it really gives us an accurate picture, and even a larger picture. And that's where the South Node and the North Node comes in, and things like the vertex. And ultimately, our goal as a humanity for each of us is to integrate polarity. Through the integration of polarity, we're able to begin to switch on that junk DNA and understand, the balancing of the masculine and feminine, and also how the nucleic acids of our DNA connect to the elements. And the mitochondrial DNA actually connects with the ether that is a part of the mother energy coming back to bring about balance. And so a lot of the galactic history I've studied, a lot of the research I've done, a lot of my own personal experiences, I like to have it as a backup, but not just a backup, but also a tool to find more accuracy to a lot of the information that's out there. And when we can turn it on the individual, we're really able to work the micro, macro, and all recognize we have a great purpose. We're made of these cosmic and earthly forces. We have things that have tried to hold us back, but there's also planetary energies that represent the initiations and activations that we need to go through in order to be whole. And it's not easy for everybody. And so looking at what's standing in the way can be, really, really helpful during these times. And that's why I kind of focus in on it in my, day job, day life.
Right. So you've said the term junk DNA a few times. Can you, for maybe the audience members that don't have a background or haven't heard that term before, or maybe have heard it but don't really know like how to apply it, can you just give a little background on what junk DNA is and how it's actually very useful and how we're starting to activate that now on the planet?
Well, what's interesting is astrology has been called a pseudoscience, but there is the medical component where the planetary bodies and and how that relates to the astro signs rule a certain sector of our life, including our health and our organs. And when there's a difficult aspect, it can affect our health. Also, things like the Saturn moon matrix that have put blockages in our beings, seals or frequency fences that have made it very, very difficult to receive the initiations and activations to help us unscramble the fire codes, which is junk DNA. So very often you see different windows in generational energies that have been born that show either a massive amount of children being born that don't have that barrier, and then a lot that do. And so that's the whole idea of unity consciousness, that we can share information and our energies in order to help to do the greater repair work. Because we all carry different strengths, challenges, goals, leading to like a much larger picture goal that most humans actually do want. So there are certain generations that are born with Saturn squaring these planets that help to activate and initiate. And a lot of times, transits as well. And so what happens, instead of being able to unscramble that junk DNA, instead of being able to go through the initiation and ride through a life experience that is actually helping us to wake up, instead we feel like we're going crazy because other people tell us we're going crazy also, which doesn't help. Right. We might really struggle with going into the dark night of the soul initiations. We might struggle with the epiphanies and downloads coming in because it challenges the social engineering or conditioning that we might have, gone through. So it can be very, very difficult for people to begin to unlock their dormant DNA because, first of all, astrology is a great tool to help us, but it's been considered a pseudoscience, whereas the actual sciences we might trust or count on are telling us that our DNA has junk DNA, which to me is the pseudoscience because it's not junk, it's not useless. It actually holds the qualities of what moving into higher harmonic universes through activating dormant DNA is really all about. So to unscramble all of this means that we go through these initiations with more grace and ease, more ability to trust ourselves, more ability to really integrate it, listen to the messages, connect with the earth, connect with, greater cosmic forces, and really, educate ourselves to broaden our minds into knowledge that may be considered to be, out of the box, so that we can assimilate it with a little bit of reassurance. So it really depends on when we're born, but there've been enough blasts of times in our, history where, certain types of children will be born at different times. That'll help to lift the lid off of other people that might be struggling in the control system. But it's kind of a mixed bag depending, I could go on and on and on. I don't want to, go over people's heads. But the hardest part is that when we're about to go through initiations, we instead hand our power over to a doctor that might throw us a pharmaceutical. Oh, you think you're going crazy? Here, take this drug. Or going into the dark night of the soul. Oh, that you're a psychological mess. You're suicidal. There's no real assistance and guidance in moving through these energies, coming out the other end being greater and healthier and more aligned and more balanced than before. Instead, that trapping is the hardest part, because what it does is it keeps us spinning on the time loop. It keeps us locked into these negative patternings that we see in our chart. It keeps us stuck in a mindset that actually can cause really great detriment to our beings. And so the chart can help us to unlock, where is it coming from? What is the root of that? Is it a family energy? Is it because you dated a narcissist? Is it because you got locked up in the school systems? Is it because there was maybe a MyLab or some sort of, other project that the human race is not very privy to, that you had to, contend with, maybe abduction scenarios, So astrology opens us up to such a larger picture that it helps us to understand the energy, the physicality, all elements, earth, air, fire, water, and now ether is available. And this is what is so significant about this ascension window, is the ether is available in ways that it hasn't been, because reversal technologies made it a lot more inaccessible. And it's hard to just put in a short interview, but now that that energy is circulating again, this is what's allowing us to purify. But it's also in this window right now, causing a lot to be purged and a lot to come to the surface, which is why everybody's easily offended. People are freaking out. People like to throw others under a bus when they're struggling with a wound. And there's not a whole lot of maturity that we see with how to handle those wounds. But then again, there is a lot of that as well. It kind of depends how these things are hitting us. But it's a big time of purging and healing and maturing spiritually, to be able to recognize that even though there's a lot of dark coming to the surface and things that are very, very disturbing for people to wrap their head around, this is what is necessary for us to really get our power back, find integrity, and begin to connect into what's going on an earthly and cosmic level, to basically become our true authentic self, which to me is ascension. Now, there's a lot of definitions that I don't fully relate to when it comes to that word, but anyway, that's kind of my piece on ascension and how it works with astrology. And the junk DNA part, if you look at it, scramble fire codes, it's similar to the chaos that we see, the conquer and divide agendas that keep everything scrambled and chaotic, our own chaoticness, having a hard time embracing the mystery, having a hard time understanding the energetic activations that we're receiving that are wanting us to unscramble these codes. And really, it's based in sacred union. All these different levels and harmonic universes are based on the harmonizing of the masculine and feminine, and the purification of the nucleic acids of our DNA, which are elemental, which when we clear within us, the earth has no choice but to respond. Therefore, when we do that inner work and work on ourselves, we start to notice that the world around us is becoming improved. It's healing, and there's greater things that are taking place that we're able to recognize because we're doing the work within ourselves. Sorry for these long-winded answers, but these are such complex subjects that I try to simplify. But
no, we love long-winded here on our Facebook lives. We love long-winded, so keep going. No, but that it brings up a visual when you talk about how the inner work then affects the outer work. It really is like we are the drop of water that connects to the rest of the ocean. And if you look at a drop of water, the way that it rolls out in a perfect circumference all the way around, that's kind of how our inner work projects out to the macro, the micro from the macro. Once we do our inner work and we start balancing our energies, it's just that it is the ripple effect, and you'll start to see the world around you kind of clear out, kind of like what, the way you described it. I saw that, the water,
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of elements too, so I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to give you a chance to explain this to the audience. So a lot of people, either if you studied Eastern medicine or any type of energetic modalities, the four elements, earth, air, wind, fire, or earth, wind, fire, and what was the fourth one?
Oh, yeah, earth, air, fire, water, ether.
Water. Thank you. Yeah.
The Chinese goes into wood, metal. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All of those. So now ether, can you explain, because like you said, this is kind of like the newest element that's coming out and really making its presence known, whether we want it to or not, everybody in their own kind of healing journey. So can you explain just ether as an element and kind of what its characteristics are to your understanding, and how we can use it like on a micro level? So on like in our daily healing and our personal inner work, how do you use ether?
Well, when our energetic blocks begin to lift, particularly in this time, it's something that can flow through our creative channels and really, clean house. It's a great purifier. It's connected to the substance of spirit. And so, basically the reason it's tough for people is because of the attachments we're not willing to let go of. And so when we're going through all these changes, but we're still holding on to toxic jobs, toxic relationships, that's the toughest part right now, is beginning to unhook and cut the cords. Doesn't mean we abandon anybody, but that's kind of why it's been, difficult for some people, letting go of the ego attachments. But basically, if we look throughout history, these dark cycles of history for the last 26,000 years, even though the history goes way, way before that.
Right.
We've been dealing with a lot of dark technologies that have put reversals in and mess with the earth grids and stargates. And when our DNA got unplugged and all these cataclysms took place that threw the pyramid technology offline, we kind of lost all our galactic memories. And so basically what ended up happening on a very covert level was, this satanic ritual abuse and this inversion of the pentagram, where the fifth element is actually going into the ground, which is fine as we come into the human experience, but it's supposed to come up again. If we look at like Venus and the Venus transits, which represent this whole correction that we're going through, basically what the Venus transits are doing, and anybody can look this up, the trail of Venus leaves a perfect pentagram in the sky. So basically the energy of love, but really the unconditional love of like the mother, going into the earth, as we see with mythologies, the divine feminine is always going into the underworld, or the Hades, or some sort of archetypal energy is trying to keep her shoved down and in exile. But that energy is always supposed to come back up again. And so the Venus transits have been taking this inversion of the pentagram, which represents that sort of the physical realms having dominion over the spirit realms, the exile of the divine feminine, the patriarchy, and the contamination of the elements, because the ether is no longer there to purify it. So therefore, it's able to create a control system that is harvesting and using our energies to keep these agendas alive, constructing artificial timelines and all these different propagandas we're seeing, and basically mind control through the use of, these dark technologies. And so over the course of time, the Venus transits have been, very much about, reversing that, turning the pentagram upright again, which brings in the ether. And so the satanic ritual abuse, and I'm not saying this is what Satan means or Lucifer means, that's all for each individual to try and figure out. But I'm more using those words as far as reversals or sort of the anti-life agendas. And maybe some people wouldn't associate those names with them. So forget about the names. It's more about the harvesting factor and the worship of the Baphomet and the dark mother energies that religion has particularly attached itself to. Not to say that there's not a lot of well-intentioned people in religion, but every power structure that we're seeing has been based on those, principles of us having dependency, us giving our power away, and us being these lowly humans that need to repent or follow some sort of governmental leader or instructor. And so that parental energy is a power that maybe was needed, but it got out of control and it started to really misuse its power. And these, cults and sects that got infiltrated, I don't want to use the word cult, but they became cult and they became these sects that were worshiping the whole sort of dark mother reversal and utilizing these harvesting technologies to feed on, and their hybrids and people in positions of power were kind of like doing their bidding or doing what they were told or making agreements. We see things about ET government treaties. So in this time of the reversing of the pentagram, it's also correcting the reversal 55, which is what was put on the dodecahedron platonic solid, which actually connects with the ether. And so this reappearance of the ether in a more circulatory way for the whole of the collective not only helps these stargates to open, but it also helps to, clear out the portals of inorganic energies and entities. And so it's basically like, as we heal and we enhance our immune systems, as we step into integrity, as we purify our own negative ego, we're standing in alignment with what's actually happening on a cosmic and earthly level. It's when we resist it and fight it that things get more extreme. Maybe, I don't know, we all have ascension symptoms. Sometimes when we resist something, the symptoms get worse. If we embrace the symptoms, we give them nurturing and attention, and we listen to the messages coming through, we can begin to upgrade our physical body. So to me, the upright pentagram represents ether coming in, the substance of spirit, which now people can begin to recognize holds dominion over physical matter and can begin to create things like what one might call miracles, but it's not really a miracle. It's very natural, but something where, whoa, the physics are changing as we're expanding into higher dimensional energies. And so even things like chemtrails or the assaults that we've been, dealing with, the toxicity of this world, the looming threats that are kind of breathing down our neck. When we really stand in alignment, we realize that we're not just clearing our organs, meridian, or our negative ego. We're actually clearing the mind control and the propaganda about what this future should look like. And instead, we're realizing that we are co-creating this future, and we might have beliefs, but the body's going to let us know if it's not in agreement to the beliefs we hold. It's going to react. Right. But if we hold, beliefs that are based in our own authenticity and truth, and the fact that all these things are happening right now to help upgrade us, and we just devote to it, and just being the best we can be for each other, and really being guardians to what's sacred and this earth, included, it's working us, and it's helping us to really anchor this energy and co-create a beautiful organic ascension timeline that's always been there. I mean, to me, that's the truth. Everything else is artificial. Everything else is a propaganda. Everything else is some sort of interference or frequency disturbance that wants us to attach to something that would create a future that we actually don't want to see. And what we might think we want to see is going to catch up with us if it's not in alignment with our higher self and integrity. And so a lot of life lessons that we don't want might come along to help us to, say, wait a second, maybe I should take the higher road. Maybe I was being a bit of a, but and then we all have to have forgiveness and compassion. I mean, we've been operating under a lot of manipulation for so many thousands of years. The best thing we can do is be forgiving and self-correct where necessary, because nothing can stop what's happening. And everything is encouraging us to stand in alignment. And so there really is nothing to fear except for our own lack of finding those inner treasures, and just knowing that, we're being really supported on a cosmic and earthly level to achieve something really great.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I was thinking too, so like, as you're speaking, I just keep seeing, I'm kind of like seeing your descriptions like in pictures, I guess. So for me, like with the inverted pentagram, so to my understanding, ether rises, right? Like that's, you know what I mean? It's kind of like has that air quality and has that like, it's an ascension quality. So like it rises. So with the inverted pentagram, for it to be forced down, I mean, what better way to keep a planet under control if you understand the actual science behind energetics, and that's one thing that I truly hope that our audience and humanity starts to understand. These pseudosciences, the opposition understands the actual science behind all of these pseudosciences very, very well. They have been utilizing that against us, and what better way to throw us off their trail by, saying that it's a pseudoscience and it's crazy and you're a conspiracy theorist and you're this and you're, you know what I mean? Like it's a brilliant operation that they enacted upon us. So really one of the best ways I believe, personally, that we can start to take our power back is to start looking at anything labeled a pseudoscience, you know what I mean? Really start to look at that and start to study it and become educated in it the same way that the opposition is, and to realize, you know what I mean, how to take that power back and kind of bridge that gap from science and spirituality that has been engineered so that we don't understand that it's actually one and the same. You know what I mean? So then we can see when it's being used, weaponized against us, basically.
Right. And that's the thing. The harvesting technologies become a weapon. And so the more we don't allow ourselves self-knowledge, which things like astrology can teach us, why are we ill? Why are these symptoms here? Where is it coming from? They want to keep us from self-knowledge because that's what it really gives. They work with the shadow side of planets. So for example, Neptune's shadow side is addiction and self-undoing. How can it hold us hostage to the lower octaves of the planetary energies? Like the lower Saturn is control and dominance and energy blocks. So here we have this system that breathes over our neck, tells us what rules we need to play by, while it's absolutely hypocritical, doing the worst criminal acts. Unlike, humans that tend to be very well natured. I mean, there's patented technologies that can turn you into a criminal. If you, are weakened enough in your life, that you can be targeted. You can also be targeted for being very aware and being a great activator, of course. So yeah, the shadow side of planets, and everybody's got that vulnerability when they have difficult aspects in their chart. But now with the sun moving through the 13th sign, even though it doesn't mean we have to adjust our natal charts, it's only for, natal charts for kids born after 2010. Mm-hmm. But the transiting planets and the progressions are going to bring that frequency into, every human. And then there's, Vedic astrology. There's other systems. It depends on what a person resonates with. But yeah, it's, very true. And so doing the shadow work is just a way to look at, everything that we struggle with has an antidote. And when we can just sit with the stuff that feels so uncomfortable, whether it's insecurities, depression, anger, rage, victimhood, bitterness, and you're able to see the other side of it and the energy that's going to uplift it and turn it around and create that alchemy and transformation, then we realize, there's no obstacle that's too big for us. And the mind control is really saying, you don't have the healing power. You're going to have to ask somebody else to solve this for you. And you're going to have to give your power away to somebody to direct this path. And this is a time where true human sovereignty is shining through, because all these life lessons we've learned is really geared towards that. Because that's a natural, we're encoded with it. And, it doesn't mean don't seek help, but we got to be very discerning and careful about the choices we make. But everything, all adversity to me is a blessing in the end. And I'm not trying to, say that some things are acceptable, that we've seen in this world. I mean, we're incredibly vulnerable, but in this rehabilitation time, the best thing that we can do is be able to count on each other a little more. And, it's a little disconcerting to see so much attack and negativity, going on. But to me, it's still a part of that purging process. Turning lead into gold is not an overnight thing. Ascension is not kind of like, so yeah, patience. We have to have patience.
Patience and compassion, for sure. And I mean, if there's one thing that the audience can walk away with today, well, actually, I hope they walk away with every topic that you're discussing, because this is really, really vital information. But just one piece of understanding is that the compassion has to start with the self. You cannot give away what you don't already possess. And that the patience and compassion, patience with yourself, compassion with yourself, because once you understand what that feels like, then it's easy, you can give it away, then you know how to do that with others. So yeah, a lot of our topics, we have very big topics, and we have very big information, and we have, just our whole mission in the disclosure community is just really, really big. So it's always good, I think, just to kind of break it down to the micro level, so that way we can all walk away with tools,
Yeah. I mean, every moment of our existence is an opportunity to upgrade, to self-correct, to step back and, ask ourselves, was there a better way I could have said it? Did I just dismiss this person? But, the other person has to ask themselves, am I being abusive in my inability to maybe, I don't know, accept a different way of, viewing, things. So, I mean, it really starts in our, every moment. I mean, the Virgo energy, and this is also about like integrating polarity. Virgo and Pisces are opposite each other. Mm-hmm. Virgo is an earth sign ruled by Mercury. Pisces is connected to Neptune. And so the Pisces and Neptune is all about multidimensional spiritual energy and the creative imagination. But opposite is Virgo. It has to do with lifestyle, chores, routine, work, physical health, being of service. So if we were to integrate those two, then we can see things more on a holistic level, that the quality of energy stands behind the quality of form. So if there's a lot of anger, bitterness, resentment, energy blocks, the physical body's going to suffer. So if we can understand how to integrate those polarities and look into our creative imagination and belief systems to see where they might be distorted, then we can unlock a lot of the physical problems that we're having. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's multi-generational. So the body's very unconscious. So we can inherit something. It's just like, oh, it's a heart issue or this or that. And we only see it from the physical perspective, or a behavior pattern connected to our moods. It's just isolated. And there's so much more to us. And that's why, The Cosmic Secret is such an important documentary. There's so many different ways to understand what's going on with us. So many different ways to, get activated and get closer to ourselves.
Right.
And I just know that it's a big dose of, positive and good, medicine for that. Because we're not at the mercy of anything really. But yeah, so it's an amazing time. We are moving into a conjunction in January of Pluto and Saturn, and then Jupiter's going to come into the mix. And this is a really, really powerful time of a solidification of a timeline that we are actively choosing to be on. And it's changing the nature of how Saturn works with us, because if anything's the light of the human experience, it's the way Saturn's been. And Pluto, like turning that into, the higher octave, which is teacher master, which it means that we can go through these trials and tribulations and come out the other end, not beneath Saturn, but, working with that law of structure, but more with cosmic and natural laws instead of a matrix control system. And so this is a really, really critical window period. Even some scientists have said, I hope this is true news, I'm pretty sure it is that the rings of Saturn are dissolving. And there's been a massive broadcast between the artificial components of the moon and Saturn, and which has really kept the masculine and feminine out of balance, kept us limited in a very, very minimal DNA expressions, kept our galactic chakras closed down. And people have to know, when we start to switch that stuff on, the psychic attacks might increase. But that's where, a sense of humor and just the willingness to just breathe through it and move through it is incredibly important, because, obviously there's been forces for a long time that have wanted nothing more than to prevent us from what we are actually achieving. And this is a huge time of victory. I'm feeling really encouraged about all that's in front of us. So
that's excellent. And so do you have, you started talking about kind of the planetary movements for this coming year. Do you, with kind of layman, for the general public that doesn't necessarily understand what, Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn and all of those kind of do with each other, do you have, I'm not looking for a prediction or a forecast for 2020, but just from your knowledge, what do you see? How do you see that planetary movement translating, kind of on the Earth's surface now, with the politicals and the disclosure and like kind of everything that's going on? What do you see for 2020?
Well, I think it's a major reset. The control systems are collapsing. What's been happening behind the scenes that has been criminal is, coming to the surface. I think it's still, I think we're still vulnerable with some false movements and some things that we have to be careful of. I think the most important thing is be an observer, but don't fully give your power away. It really has to start with our own connection, our own grounding with the earth, and our own ability to expand, our minds. And the best practice is to just be authentic, even if it upsets people, because that's going to ensure that your BS meter is working and that you can tell the difference between falsities and things that are actually healthy and good for you. The more we get to know ourselves, the more we know what's not right for us and what is right for us. We need to develop our own boundaries. And so Saturn has a lot to do with boundaries, but what it's doing is it's helping us to find the law of structure and boundaries and disciplines and responsibilities more that is resonant with us, that is going to help us to be a container we can thrive in, which really is the physical body, because Saturn rules the bones and teeth in our structure. So when we can release the controls and the things that have been conditioned into us, that's what's happening on a personal level. And what we're seeing on a much larger level is every opportunity to align with something outside of us that's in resonance with it, and every choice to avoid doing that inner work and align with something that might just lead us astray and take us further away from the goal. But we can always get back on track, and it's okay. And sometimes it's a part of, the lessons. I think it's up to each individual. People will say the climate change movement's false. Others will say, no, it's not. So does that mean we battle each other? I think we need to just step back and observe, respect each other's differences, and know that true oneness is diversity and harmony. The truth is eventually going to win out. But until then, I think most people are well-intentioned in the things that they're gravitating towards and resonating with. And even though it's frustrating, because sometimes we think that what we know is the ultimate truth, we have to, create a lot of wiggle room for one another, and just stay in humility and stay an observer. But mostly, work on the self, because a lot of the old beliefs, old controls, and everything that we've held on to because of what's happened in the outer world. I mean, simultaneously, it's all a big reset. And then we're in this whole other stage in 2020. There's going to be a difficult aspect between Saturn and Uranus. So first it's getting hit with Pluto, which is the great alchemist. And then it's going to be a challenging aspect with Uranus, which means this will be the final remnants, because Uranus is the wrecking ball, out with the old, in with the new, great awakening, connecting to the divine mind. This is also what I feel is going to be sort of a bifurcation time, because the shadow side of Uranus is technology without necessarily needing the spiritual development. The high side of Uranus is recognizing that the human vessel is an advanced technology, right, and connecting into zero point and connecting into the multidimensional reality of what we're really made of is going to remind us eventually that that's the most advanced thing. So we see AI, transhumanism, things like 5G. The shadow side of Uranus is very much connected to technology, but the more, you know, positive side that we can really gain from is to be very, very careful of where outer societal movements are trying to steer us. And just really, you know, I suggest people get to know their chart. There's a lot of astrologers besides me, medical astrologers too, that will, you know, really help you to understand, I don't know, but I mean, just to put it on the world stage perspective, things like financial resets, you know, Pluto has a lot to do with money and power. And so they've been trying to prevent this particular window from being successful. We just had an alignment with Jupiter and the Galactic Center, and also Venus. And I was fortunate to be in Chichen Itza around the time that Jupiter was aligning. And we worked a lot of this kind of energy, and people are doing this kind of stuff from their own living room without realizing it, all over the world too. Whether we're conscious or unconscious, we're always working some kind of energy. But basically, if they can't gain some kind of leverage or foothold or control over humans in this particular window between now and like February 2020, that boat is really sunk. And I think all of us know that victory is already ours. Yeah. And that ship is pretty much, you know, sunk. And there's no way to rewind. I mean, any news story, there's no way that they can get away with a false news story without hundreds of researchers coming out with memes and counteracting a lot of the lies. So yeah, it's just a matter of just riding this out. But with purging and with great change comes upheaval and things that are incredibly uncomfortable. You know, so there's a lot of reset in people's own personal lives, a lot of things that they attach themselves to that might not last. But if we can just really trust our higher mind and really invite it in to be the director of our physical lifestyle, the words we choose to speak, the way we treat one another, everything's going to work fine. But if we create this higher self, lower self division, and we live a contradicting physical lifestyle, it's going to be a lot rockier. Right. So, you know, there's drastic changes going on. There's things that we're going to have to put up with that might be engineered, because we have been dealing with weather weapons and false flags, but we're gaining seniority through working our own inner elements, connected to the outer elements. When we're not in power, when we're not empowered, when we're not connected to our own divine power, these weather weapons have more control over us, because that's what's being harvested is elemental energies and chi, and, you know, natural kundalini forces connected to the dragon lines that are ready to be rehabilitated to restore the tree of life template out of that duality. So, you know, there's a lot of work for all of us to do individually, but, you know, it can be fun. You know, it really can be fun, because the good news at the end of the day is the prerequisite, or the key to all of it, is give yourself permission to be yourself and embrace all the gunk, all the yuck, and, you know, just say, I'm done with you, and I'm just staying aligned, you know, with higher self. I'm inviting it into my physical lifestyle, and nothing's going to get in the way, and break all contracts and agreements. And, you know, it really doesn't take much. It's a lot simpler than it all sounds, but it's good to know that there's legitimate sciences backing up ascension and backing up what we're really made of, that junk DNA isn't junk, and that our DNA is connected to the elementals. And this purification that's happening with the ether now online is actually healing the mitochondrial DNA, which is actually healing our relationship with the mother, which has been grossly manipulated and, you know, kept from us. And that's a theft that all humans feel somewhat of a broken heart about. That's why it's so easy to get addicted to the matrix and all the things that they throw at us to cope with the fact that there's a real loss in our heart that we all struggle with. The loss of harmonious and healthy relationships, the loss of really feeling a connection to this earth, a lot of fear of our own power. But, you know, all these different incarnations and stuff has taught us the right use of power through karma, through life lessons. And so, at this stage of the game, the reason they call it graduation is because we should have enough to go on now to know how to operate, and some people have it more figured out than others, but it doesn't mean that there's hierarchy or that you're chosen or special. It just means that, somebody has maybe a little bit more of those programmings to work through.
Right. And one thing that I hope everybody knows too is that, if this is maybe even your first introduction to anything astrological or ascension related, or, some of these terms that might be over some of our audience members' head, like, I hope that everybody knows that even if this information is not in our conscious awareness today, it is there. We know how to do this. We're already doing this. We do this in our sleep. We do this in our waking hours. Like, our bodies and the science that is us, that the opposition knows, that science is still working in our favor. So,
right.
you don't have to sit there and know, okay, I have to know how Pluto does this with Saturn and what that's doing with my ether. And like, it's already happening.
It's a great navigation tool, but you don't need to know because it's happening anyway. It's like when you eat food, you don't have to say, digest my food.
Exactly.
And, there's the science you can appreciate a flower and the essence of a flower, or you can understand the biology of it.
Right.
It's just a reminder that there's a lot more to what is actually simple. And to break it down is for some, not everyone. I do offer consultations for people to ask any questions about the work that I do or to get to know their astro charts, and I do subscriptions and stuff like that. But exactly, that's a really good point. Some of this stuff can go way over our head. And when we look at the amount of textbooks that we might be given in school, that's just as complex. But right. what has been kept out of the history books? What has been kept out of the science books? And so it's just a little bit of an opportunity to say, wow, the sciences we're learning about should help us to get closer to ourselves, not disassociate to the point where everything is externalized and then there's just us and we don't know how to heal ourselves. We have to constantly, give that to somebody else to do. And in some circumstances, we do need that. And sometimes things get a little bit too far, and it's not all bad, but, there's a lot that we are, recognizing, and that is, really important. And there's things that are going on with the physics and chemistry of, everything. So it's important to connect to, essences and frequencies, musical tones, colors, and, there's simpler ways to initiate activations than, going the intellectual route, but at least understanding it as far as your own chart is concerned, it touches upon every layer of, our being. And I translate it when I give readings. I'm not like, oh, Uranus is squaring Saturn. And I apologize to anybody who's like, why can't you just explain it in, better, more simplistic terms? But, when I do charts for people, I don't throw a lot of astro lingo. The only reason I am, hopefully I've given some definition to it, but all I can say is this is one of the most critical times that I can think of as far as what the planets are doing. And because Jupiter, the planet of expansion and higher mind and adventure and philosophy even, is connecting to Uranus in a harmonious way, and that's getting very, very close to Saturn and Pluto, it's showing that the truth is winning. And on an astrological level, the data is there. And I like to have data instead of, sound like let's just be woo-woo and positive, which isn't a negative thing, but we got to have some backup. And it's inevitable. So they're only trying to delay the inevitable by making us miserable. So let's just laugh it off and do our best, but also support people that are really, really struggling, give victims a voice, and I don't know. We all are going to make it though. And it's incredible to be a part of this greater community, because I think we can all relate to the times where we knew a lot of this stuff, but could we talk to anybody about it? It's kind of
Yeah. I think we all remember those days. For sure. So you said, just so I have a feeling that some of our audience members want you to repeat one thing or give a little more clarity. You said that you do consultations and you do readings, and you have some tools that you can help with the audience members. So how can they find that, and how can they reach out to you to maybe reach out to you to do a reading?
Well, my website's cosmicgaia.org. And basically it's less than $1 a day to have the ability to do check-in sessions. So it comes with like no more than 15-minute calls a month, not necessary to be used every month, and discounted sessions, like half hour, or, I can work out something longer, or even a package. And I'm closing it off to the public just so, those who subscribe have an easier ability to, book on the online calendar. And yeah, and to look at people's chart, I can look at geocentric, heliocentric, sidereal, tropical, and progressions, transits. And I also send out a weekly newsletter about what's going on, how the astrology's, connected to timelines, connected to sort of larger picture stuff, disclosure, body changes, ascension symptoms. And I also do podcasts. And so, yeah, you can find out about that on my website. And
awesome.
You can book a consultation that is just about maybe working with you if you don't feel like subscribing, and, figuring out what might be possible. Cause I don't want to like shut the door to people who don't want to do something each month. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So cosmicgaia.org, and we'll also put that in the description once we're done with this Facebook Live. And then the last thing is, so for people that, really did connect with your information and the verbiage and the way you talked about it, and they want to learn more, do you have any material yourself that they can look up? Or is there anybody that you would suggest? Is there a book you would suggest, or kind of someplace for the novice to get started on the astrological journey?
Well, this has been 20 to 25, I don't know, more than 20 years of research and connecting dots. So there's not really one book. I've kind of pulled bits and pieces together. I mean, medical astrology books you can find on Amazon. Energeticsynthesis.com, Lisa Renee touches upon quite a bit of the same kind of stuff I touch upon. When I found her work, I was like, yes. And I'm almost done with 3 books. So when that comes out, it'll hopefully, be helpful of, all these different, dots that have been connected. I feel good about everybody that's been in Cosmic Secret and Majestic, Above Majestic, to, and the dots will, get connected the more you open your mind. And one of the really important things is, what's coming in? Are you getting a download? And this is what I do, or at least what I did do, or still do. When I get like a download or an epiphany, I sort of research, does anybody else agree? And then I can sort of develop it a little bit more and find out more and find different sources that are, saying similar things, particularly surrounding the exploded planets in our ancient history. That's sort of, what helped me to find a common thread amongst many different sources. But I would say, check out medical astrology books. It's going to make it a lot less woo-woo and a lot less pseudoscience when you really, learn some of these things. I'm going to start to teach astrology courses, but I guess energeticsynthesis.com is a great source. Just Googling around medical astrology is helpful. I'm not much of a reader, I have to say. I'm just one of those people that connect dots and then try and find things to kind of back it up. But I will, as I think of more, I mean, I have a featured page on my website. If you look at featured, it has a lot of different people in this community, their website, work that they do, and their YouTube channels, and people I feel really good about. So I always build that page. And I can also, maybe eventually come up with a book list, but that's about all I can say right now.
No, that's perfect. Especially if, going to cosmicgaia.org, going to your website and going to the featured page, sounds like a really good place to start for the people that really vibed with what we were talking about today, for sure. Awesome. All right, Miss Laura, did you have any last words for the community, for the audience, for anybody?
Well, we just really have to be gentle with ourselves. I mean, this is, pretty bumpy. The last new moon we had in Sagittarius had a pretty strong Venus square Chiron. So Chiron is an asteroid, and it's actually the ruler of the 13th sign, which is connected to the ether. And so we're still dealing with a lot of wounds coming up to the surface, a lot of traumas, a lot of trust issues. And, I think it's great to have faith, but put your trust in yourself first. Trusting people outside of yourself first can be kind of dangerous. Be really gentle to yourself, your physical bodies. Everything's going through a lot of changes and upgrades. And to upgrade, sometimes we have to take a huge step back and kind of go into a place of darkness to really purge up, junk, just like if we're wanting to park a car in the garage, we have to clean out the garage first. We're making a lot of room for these really incredible energies to come in. I guess just, do your best to just have compassion for yourself, like you said, and be in integrity and be kind to one another. I know it sounds so simple and cheesy, but, I think it's really important that we build a strong community and we step back when something doesn't feel right, but we don't go into attack mode, because this is, to me, what's setting the example for so much more. Because when people's reality gets really unhinged and everything they invested into, you know, starts to fall apart and they don't have any leg to stand on, we want to be the support system.
Right.
And I know it doesn't mean that we have to have a group mind, but each of us individually, we can just, you know, do our best to be the example of what it means to be, you know, a kind member of this greater galactic, you know, family. And because a lot of the outer stuff, you know, it's almost like being orphaned by our governments because we realize maybe they don't really care about us. And I'm not saying our current leaders or what's going on, there aren't some good things. Right. Everybody's got their own connection with it. But this is because humanity's ready to get off their parents' couch and not have an authority in the same way we've been used to. And right. it really is time to, you know, be sovereign and, you know, have the ability to be a free thinker without being aggressive and egocentric about it. And we can only do our best. But I just know that there is a ton to look forward to. The veils are really lifting. And yeah, everybody's got an important purpose in all of this. And so, yeah, I'm just sending a lot of love and support out to everybody. And I hope I can be of assistance. And I look forward to where we're going to be, you know, and I'm excited about where we already are, I guess. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And it was great to be a part of these projects. And I recommend that everybody, you know, watches it. There's something for everybody amongst all the diverse speakers. It's really incredible. And I want to, you know, thank Corey and David and Roger and you and, you know, Adrian Youngblood and, you know, the people, did I say Roger Richards? I mean, the names, oh good. Of course. I mean, my gosh, he did an outstanding job just for really, you know, creating these platforms and creating, you know, this opportunity for all of us to come in and share our research and our work and really, you know, give us, you know, a voice. It's awesome. So.
It is. And that's one thing that has been kind of a theme across all of our Facebook lives is the combined message of Above Majestic and the Cosmic Secret. I mean, I think Roger's the one that coined it. He said it really is the ultimate red pill, both movies, you know, because Above Majestic does come in there and just shatters the paradigm. You know what I mean? Like, no, you know, no holds barred. It's a big, you know, 1-2 knockout, kind of to the paradigm and to a lot of belief systems. And then Cosmic Secret comes in and really connects it, you know, gives it the full holistic, ties in the spirituality with the sciences, you know, and with the programs and with everything, and really gives it that holistic feel. So we definitely hope everybody, you know, obviously please watch The Cosmic Secret. You know, it's out right now. It's on quite a few platforms. But also, you know, don't forget about Above Majestic. Like it's one of those, like, if you hand both of those to one person, they will not come out of that room the same. You know what I mean? They just won't.
Yeah. And it's really important to know too, it really encourages free thinking.
Right.
And it really is about personal development and really what's, you know, taking what resonates. And I think this community, there's a lot of disruption about, you know, different people's intentions, and just, you know, stand in your own power. Nothing can, you know, and I think that's what's really being encouraged, and hopefully it'll drop a lot of the projections and misunderstandings.
Definitely, for sure. All right, guys. Well, Laura, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the projects. Thank you so much for your life's work. Thank you for just doing what you do and being able to deliver this information to the rest of humanity in a really digestible way, you know, and giving people, laying some tools at people's feet that they can pick up what works for them and they can leave the rest, but they can do their own research from there. And you've been, you know, you're a big component of this community, and I think of this entire movement. So thank you for living your life's purpose, and giving the rest of us the tools to go on from there. So we just want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed, you know, spending this time with you, and I look forward to when I get to see you again in person. And, you know, thanks for having me on. Thanks. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. So just a heads up, we will have some more Facebook Live interviews coming up next week. We're speaking with David Lone Bear Sanapass, as well as John D'Souza, the X-Man. So stay tuned for days and times for those interviews coming out. But thank you guys for joining us again. And I will have all of Laura's links so that you can follow her and find more of her work in the description here soon. So thank you, everybody. Bye.